Do you know what's better than Trench Crusade? When the Winged Hussars arrive! I am going to show you how to paint these awesome Trench Crusade inspired Winged Hussars from Daka. Let's get into it. First, we will be using the Chaos color Corn Red, and we're going to do this to base the arms and that skirt area, which I do believe is just a Gambeson. I also did that little plume on top as well. Just make sure you guys get a nice coat all over it. Once you're done with that, we're going to go move over to Ushabby Bone, and I did the legs in this color. Now it takes like 2 to 3 coats. If you don't want to do that many coats, you can always just do a middle color or neutral color first. I also did that little bedroll on the back as well. Now it is time to move onward to the armor. And I'm using natural steel from Vallejo, and I've got to tell you, I absolutely love this metal. It's much more reflective than the Citadel ones. It gives a really nice natural metal look. So we're going to go ahead and base all of the metal in this color. We're going to get ourselves Dryad Bark, and we're going to be basing all of the leather and the gold bits as well. For the leather, that's going to be like the belt, the boots, the gloves, and the little like backpack thing as well. And then for like the little gold bits, we're just going to base it in that same Dryad Bark as well. Once you're all done with that, I got the Vallejo Gold, which is a very bright gold. Instead of just painting it completely over that Dryad Bark, we're just gonna tap it with our brush a little bit sparingly, but hitting most of the area. And then where that sun's gonna hit it most, like on the top ridges, I'm just gonna tap it that much more, making it a little bit brighter. Once you're done with that, and all of our basing is done for our miniature, we're gonna get Agrax Earthshade or just any brown wash that you like. And we are going to wash the entire miniature in it. Now it is time to make our reds really stand out, and that's going to be that skirt Gambeson, the plume, and the cape. We're going to start off with Feast and Red, and we're going to water this down even more than an ink-like consistency. It's going to be very watery. You want to get that excess off your brush using a sharp edge like the edge of a paper plate. And we're just going to go over all of the highlighted areas that are protruding. I even like to do in some areas that if it's a larger increase between where this like the hills and this kind of goes down like in the skirt, I'll do a little highlight right in the middle because I just want a little bit more color. We're going to do that over the entire area as well as the plume. Once you're done with that, we're going to mix in a little bit of Ushabby Bone in that mixture, and now we want this consistency to be more like an ink-like consistency. And we're just going to go over the areas that we already highlighted right in the middle just to make it that much brighter. And if you highlight too much, you can always just wash that down in a very watery Feast and Red over the whole thing, and that's going to dull down all of those highlights. But we're not done yet. We are going to now get Abaddon Black, or just like any black paint that you really like. And with a dry brush, you're just gonna stipple it in, get your paper towel, wipe off the excess of the paint off your brush, and then you're just gonna brush the very bottoms where it ends, like the bottom of the skirt or the cape. And I like to kind of do it like a little upwards motion so that it builds a little bit of that dark up. Now, if you don't want to use a brush, you can always use a makeup sponge if that is easier for you. And I really love how this looks. You have that nice little like burnt look on the bottom. It just looks great. But we're not done yet. We're going to go get ourselves Steel Legion Drab, which is like the MVP of this video. I swear, I used it so much. We're going to water that down until it becomes a wash-like consistency. Very, very, very watery. And we're going to put it over all of the red areas except for the plume. Just leave the plume alone. But for all of the red material areas. And this is going to give it like this washed out red look, and it's going to make it just look a little bit more grim. And I absolutely loved how that turned out. I think it just looks absolutely great. But just remember, because it is watery, it's going to want to build in some of those recesses. So you can always just get a dry brush and soak up some of the recesses so it doesn't build in that light brown in there. For the armor, we're gonna go back to natural steel for highlights. We're going to stipple in or just tap it in, tap, 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 tap. And we're only gonna do it in the middle sections. We wanna stay away where armor plates meet. And we only want to do sharp edges as well. So middle areas and sharp edges. Now for sharp edges, like on the face, these are great little areas to highlight just by tapping it in, and it's easy to do if your brush is like at a 45-degree angle. Now, like for the swords, I really like to highlight where the swords come to the sharp points along the side, and I like to just do like little lines throughout so it looks like it hit like some scratches, or those are just areas that are going to be brighter. But we're not done yet. We're gonna go back to Steel Legion Drab, and we're gonna water that down until it becomes that wash light consistency again, and we're gonna put it in all of the recesses of the armor plates. And this is gonna look like it has like a buildup of dirt or mud or rust or whatever you want to call it. It's gonna give off this really cool effect, and because it's water, it's gonna want to just settle in those recesses, and I absolutely love how that looks. Still using that water mix from Steel Legion Drab, we're gonna go ahead and do all of our leather in that. Make sure you get some of that excess off, just wiping off like a sharp edge, like a paper plate or something, so there's not too much on your brush. And we're literally going to be going over most of the leather in this color, just to kind of give it a little bit of a faded look like a lot of leather already has. And I just kind of went around it, did little swipes, and this is a lot more buildable because there's a little more pigment in it. And once you kind of build up a little bit of those colors, you want your consistency now for your Steel Legion Drab to be an ink-like consistency, so there's more pigment on your brush. And then I like to do just little scratches throughout the leather, and you can even just pinpoint and highlight some areas just a little bit more, like the tip of the shoe, some of the edges, or where there's really heavy fold lines. It is time for gold. We are going back to that bright gold from Vallejo, and we're just gonna hit it in some of those areas where that sun's going to hit it the most. Like if this was a handguard, we're gonna go ahead and tap on that upper area and along some of those edges. I even did a little bit on that front area as well. Even like on the cross, I stayed away from the middle and just did those outer edges. Now, I want even brighter highlights, and so do you, and instead of going to a pure silver, we're going to use Stormhost Silver mixed with equal parts the gold that we just used. And if this was your handguard, we're just going to tap it on the upper top area where that sun's going to hit it the most, and along the edges of that handguard as well. I even did this on that cross on there, just hitting those little edges, doesn't make it that much brighter. And on that flag, I really focus on those edges still, really hitting that up, and where that little top point is, highlighted that even more. This gives off a much more natural highlight than if you just use a pure silver. For the feathers, we're gonna base them in Ushabti Bone. Once you're all done basing the feathers, you're gonna get Steel Legion Drab. You wanna water it down until it becomes like an ink-like consistency. And you're only gonna put it about halfway on the feathers and all the way up. Now, if you really want to, you can always dry brush some dryad bark along the very tips of the feathers, just making them kind of a bit darker and blending it in there just that much more. You're then going to wash the entire thing in Agrax Earthshade, and with a dry brush, I just took away some of those areas where that Ushabti Bone is, so it's just a little bit brighter and it doesn't get too dark. Once that is completely dry, I went back to Ushabti Bone, and I just used the side of my brush to hit some of those highlights along the feathers. It is time to paint the horse in 3 steps. The horse is based in dryad bark. Now, with your handy makeup sponge and a little bit of water mixed in that Steel Legion Drab, you're just going to get that makeup sponge, tap it in that mixture of just Steel Legion Drab and a little bit of water, and then I tap the excess off that sponge. Now, I didn't show it in this step, but I do show it in the next step, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And instead of swiping it on your horse, you're just going to tap it on the horse, and it's naturally going to want to hit all of those highlighted areas. And as you can see, I pretty much did a very base highlight over the entire horse. Once your horse has a whole base highlight, you're gonna mix in some Ushabti bone with that Steel Legion drab, like you can see on that wet palette. It's about equal parts. And then got the Mega Sponge, tapped it in there, tapped the excess off on another side of the wet palette. And then I just tapped it just a little bit on some of those brighter highlights. And that's going to really finish off your entire highlight for the horse. It is like the easiest paint job for a horse ever. Remember, it is heresy not to like and subscribe to this video, and make sure you guys check out the channel if you haven't already. I do everything from reactions to just Warhammer talks, painting tutorials, and gameplay. Make sure you guys go check that out, and that's it. Bye!